It is a starting point, and it is already in itself an historical proposal by the Commission. I'm very proud that in the worst crisis that we have had in our history, that the Commission was able to make such a strong proposal that is bold, it's innovative, and it is adequate to the level of the crisis. The purpose is that we make it a V recovery, so that we squeeze as much as possible the period of the downturn and the leg of the downturn. If the spiral starts going upwards, the economy will start working, and we'll see. But I'm convinced that at least this is needed. I just want to have this approved and to put it on the ground. I was in the European Parliament. We had a very, very good reception by the biggest political families, and I hope the Council gets an agreement very quickly on this, because citizens expect this. The discussions that we had were about the contribution of 1%. And there is no country in the world for which the national budget is 1% of the total wealth. So we need really to improve this, to increase this, so that, in fact, we can relaunch our economy. And relaunching the economy is essential, not only for the countries that are considered more affected, but also for those that, for the time being, in economic terms, seem to be less affected. This is just a moment. If countries like Italy or Spain, or that are really massive, important countries, that they are more than half of the internal market, if they get into a recession, the recession is not a Spanish or an Italian recession, it is an European recession. And so we have got to relaunch the economy so that the income of those member states can go on increasing and benefiting from a market that is well over their borders. It's not stopped at their borders. They benefit from exporting, from the movement of capital, from the free services that are provided. And I think it's important that altogether we put these elements that are just objective elements in the center of the agenda, and that we leave behind the kind of terrible words that were heard and said in the past crisis, and that really created a frame of mind that is not positive, and above all, it's not serious, because we have got to look at the real situation and not substitute it by slogans. Well, cohesion is absolutely central. It is central because the European this machinery that we have organized is based on free competition. But different countries have different levels of competitiveness from the start. So since the beginning, cohesion policy was there so that the weakest economies could catch up in a way that they would be able to play the game, the competition game. Now we had a crisis, a huge crisis. You can't blame anybody for it, but it affected differently the different countries and the different regions. The immediate reaction from the Commission was, on one hand, to release, to allow member states to reprogram, to redirect the structural funds that they still had in their envelopes, but on the other hand, to let member states support their companies with state aid. The aid by member states to their own companies reached a couple of weeks ago, and these are figures from the Commission, 2.3 trillion, which were almost half of it was given by the most powerful country in economic terms in Europe, which is good. But the truth is that you cannot speak of an internal market if certain companies have a backing of this dimension and other companies are located in member states that cannot afford to support them. So this may create a huge imbalance inside Europe. Of course, there are instruments that are of an immediate action. It's like REACT, that is cohesion, pure cohesion. A lot of other instruments, such as the instruments that are supposed to support reforms, the instruments that are supporting companies from an European perspective with the EIB group support. All these instruments, they have got to have in mind that, of course, the recovery cannot be done anchored on state aid. It has got to be re-anchored in a common ground that allow us to grow, to get out of this crisis, but to grow using all the advantages of the internal market and of the common currency. We cannot make our recovery on the basis of recipes that didn't function in the past. And one of these recipes from the past is that we disregarded for too long the impact of our economy in the environment. Now we have got to do the relaunch and take advantage of this opportunity to do it in a more intelligent way. Let's work in a very serious way towards a greening of this economy. The proposal of the Commission increased enormously the amount of money for the Just Transition Fund, but all the recovery is based on future-oriented, and future means that we have a green economy. Now, there is these emergency instruments, flexibility that was introduced in this year, and this REACT proposal that will last until 2022. In terms of commitments by the member states, these are emergency instruments. So what we really waived was the exact figure in each project that was classified as green, as we did all sorts of simplifications. But this doesn't mean that greening is not more at the center of the agenda. It is there. No harm principle is there. Now the ball is on member states, on regions, on companies. And I think this is a huge opportunity, but we have got to work fast, in an efficient way, and in a cohesive way. So these are my messages at this stage.